It is time for a follow-up on yesterday's video, because it looks like not only are gamers fuming about Ubisoft's comments, you will own nothing and be happy, you will own nothing even if you pay for the $70 games, you must get used to not actually owning them. Yeah, that upset gamers, but it also upset game developers. When you've got the CEO of Larian, the company behind Baldur's Gate 3, arguably the biggest game release of last year, when they go on a Twitter tirade against the comments that were made on Ubisoft's behalf, you'll love to see it. Welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idle, and I'm going to set the record straight first and foremost, because if you've seen my content, you know I'm not a Baldur's Gate 3 fan, and it's nothing against Larian. I gotta say, objectively, they made a very good, complete, finished game out the gate. If you've also been following my content for a while, you know that I loathe Wizards of the Coast and by proxy, Dungeons & Dragons, and I think 5th edition is crap. So, obviously, I got some feelings on this, but I'm man enough to acknowledge when these companies do things good, when they come in, I'm going to come out and defend them and stand up for them when good things are done, like in this article. Baldur's Gate 3 CEO hits back at Ubisoft comments about owning games. So we're definitely going to get into this, but before we do, hit that subscribe button, because free speech and nerd culture is paramount, and channels like mine can only exist with your support so that we can get these messages out there to push back and show that we the consumer, we the nerds, have voices, and we are to be listened to. We are not just little piggy banks for them to siphon off whatever they want to siphon off while pushing whatever agenda or narrative they want to push. We matter, our voices matter. So hit that button and let's get into this. Baldur's Gate 3 CEO Sven Vinky, I apologize if I'm butchering that, but it's like Swedish or something, has taken to X/Twitter to respond to comments by Ubisoft about subscription models, saying that getting good games will be harder if services become dominant. Now, what is it that I said yesterday? What is it that I said in my video? Something along the lines of, the artistic integrity is doomed if this is the route we're going. If you own nothing, then what incentive is there for artists who are creating these games to actually put their whole heart and soul into it? Yeah, it looks like that's the same argument that the Baldur's Gate 3 CEO is going to be saying. Ubisoft has come under fire recently for comments about its subscription service plans. The company's director of subscriptions, Philippe Tremblay, said in an interview with GameIndustry.biz, gamers are used to owning their games. That's the consumer shift that needs to happen. Yeah, that's a bit of a problem, because gamers, and really anybody who pays their hard-earned money for anything, wants to own what they pay their money for. But I'm not going to go on that tirade all over again. You can just watch yesterday's video if you want my full thoughts on that. It's pretty much gaming communism, if you ask me. This has sparked a lot of criticism, with many who play games feeling that ownership of games is crucial to purchase. Ownership of anything you purchase is crucial to purchase. That is why you are buying it. That's why you're paying for it, is to own it. This is all in the face of a rise in popularity of gaming subscription services, which have become more and more prominent. Microsoft's Game Pass in particular has revolutionized the market, but other services are available, like Ubisoft's own Ubisoft Plus, EA's EA Play, or Sony's PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium tiers. However, Larian boss Vininki has expressed caution at the prominence of subscription models, saying it could lead to worse games. And why wouldn't it lead to worse games? Because if you're putting all your effort into subscription models, if you're banking on all the gamers, paying $10 a month, I could be wrong, but in my head, I don't see a lot of quality coming from them only making $10 a month off of, several thousand or hundreds of thousands of gamers, when you could put, $70 price tags on your games, have the customers own those games, and then rake in $70 incentives plus DLC. Like, I just don't see this as anything other than we're going to get shovelware from all these companies that don't have to try hard anymore, because, hey, whatever. Look, if they don't like this game, there's a million other games on Game Pass Store. There's no incentive for these companies to do better, to put out good stuff. If their games are just going to get thrown on a, gaming streaming service, there people may or may not end up playing the game. Taking to X/Twitter to air out his thoughts, Vinky explained why he's cautious of the model. He said, it's going to be a lot harder to get good content if subscription becomes the dominant model, and a select group gets to decide what goes to market and what not. Direct from developer to players is the way. And that is how many individuals in nerd culture feel about many products. For example, direct from developer, or I guess in this case, writer, to consumer is how many of us enjoy comics. You want to know why Marvel and DC are dying aside from all the agenda-driven bogus? Yeah, it's because you've got the different distributors that go to the comic books, they ship to the comic book stores, then you go to the comic book store, and there's nothing good, they're not writing stuff you want. However, you've got indie creators. Indie creators are thriving because they're writing stories that they care about, that they want to sell to audiences that care about, so it's a lot more niche, but they're thriving thriving because people are finding these stories, they're wanting to buy them, and these indie creators, many of them do put their books in stores. Ninja Turtles was indie for a very long time. People bought that at the comic book shop. In fact, I've purchased plenty of indie comics at the comic shop, like one called, I believe it was called Radiation X, or Radiation Day, that was what it was called, Radiation Day. I bought the first 3 issues of that. I picked it up on a whim at the comic shop because I'm like, oh, hey, look at this. This is an indie comic. The cover art's interesting. The book ended up being really good. So much so that I bought issues 2 and 3 once they were. Now, I won't lie, because the local comic shop that I went to closed down because comic book stores are dying. I never got to get anything past the 3rd issue. Even if they even made anything past the 3rd issue, I'm not sure. I should probably look into that. But the fact of the matter is, developer to players is the way, and really anything direct from creator to consumer is the way. We need to cut out these middlemen. Now, obviously, if you've got something like a comic book store or a local game store for things, you know, like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon and Magic the Gathering, we obviously want to keep those in business. A lot of those businesses are labors of love. There's something, they're an area for nerds to go and collectively hang out so that we're not all just sitting on Discord or something. It's nice to go somewhere physical and be in person with fans of the same media. But in general, we can cut out Microsoft streaming services, or we don't need anything that's we don't need the middleman as much as possible. So here we got Ubisoft exec says gamers need to get comfortable not owning their games for the subscriptions to take off. Well, we don't want subscriptions to take off. Anyone with a brain in their brain, anyone with a brain in their head doesn't want subscription services to take off. They're glorified demo triers. Now, if you pay, for Xbox Game Pass or whatever, like I do, then hey, by all means, I ain't gonna judge it, because like I said, I paid it for it as well. But that's what it is. It's a glorified demo trier, no different than the jam packs we used to get for free in the PS1 and PS2 days. And if the game is good, awesome, you buy it yourself. He continued in the thread, subscription models will always end up being cost-benefit analysis exercises intended to maximize profit. Which, by the way, how's that going to go? Netflix has been around for what, 20 years now? Didn't it just start turning a profit a year or two ago? Twitch, for example, Twitch still isn't turning a profit. Do these companies realize how long it takes to turn a profit? If gamers are already struggling to move to this model, like, Tremblay from Ubisoft said, if they're already having trouble bringing players into this model, how do you expect to turn a profit on it? Because that's going to take a long time. If Netflix just recently, within the past couple years, started actually being a profitable company, how long is that going to take for video games, which are far more expensive to, develop, far more expensive to get in the hands of gamers? They take a lot longer. So I'm just saying, it doesn't sound like it's going to be any easy feat to begin with, but it could, of course, they saw the streaming model took over the world during the COVID era, and they think that that's the way of the future. No, that was just, we didn't have anything else we could really do at the time. We are already dependent on select group of digital distribution platforms, and discoverability is brutal. Should those platforms all switch to subscription, it'll become savage. So it sounds like Homeboy does not trust the higher-ups at these subscription model-based companies to divvy out the games in a way that's going to make their games discoverable. Like he says, it's already very limited. They're already very dependent on distribution as is. Once you just start throwing a bunch of games at something for free, or not really free, $10 a month, 15, whatever it is, but you get my point, why should I? Do you know how many games I've passed over on Xbox Game Pass because I've never heard of them? Like, don't get me wrong, Hi-Fi Rush I played on Game Pass, and it was awesome, but I played Hi-Fi Rush not because the game hooked me in terms of the description or what I saw on Game Pass. No, it's because of the recommendations from Cult Classic Cage, how highly she loved it, and also the fact that it was made by the guy that made the original Resident Evil game. So I'm a little bit biased there. But to be fair, even if he hadn't made them and Cult Classic Cage gave it such a high praise, I'd have played it. It would have been great. But if it weren't for that, I'd have just passed it right on over. So I can absolutely believe that it would become, savage for discoverability, as he puts it, just from my own anecdotal experience. In such a world, by definition, the preference of the subscription service will determine what games get made. Trust me, you really don't want that. And why don't you want that? Because again, it starts to just destroy artistic integrity. Because now people that want their games played, people that want their games made, they're going to start cutting corners and they're going to start compromising on their artistic beliefs and their artistic merits. Because why bother having these artistic beliefs or merits if my game isn't going to get played? Why make this game? Why spend all this money and all this time building and creating this art if no one's going to play it because the individuals who run these subscription models aren't going to put it on the platform or aren't going to prioritize it on the platform because it's too out of the ordinary. It's not another looter shooter or something to that effect. I mean, that's absolutely where we're at. When he says you really don't want that, what he means is you are going to get the same thing over and over. And yeah, once again, that brings us back to you'll own nothing, you'll be happy. Because not only will you own nothing, but you'll be forced to be happy with the same overdone, trite, bogus games that you've gotten time and time again. Is anyone interested in Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, even if it is on Game Pass, for example? Like let's say they threw that game on a subscription list, which will probably happen. You'll probably be able to play it on Game Pass or something to that effect. Is anyone gonna play it? It's just another looter shooter that we've been getting for the past almost 10 years, ever since Fortnite popularized it, or Destiny. Like, yeah, I think people don't really care if it's got some DC skins at this point. It's getting trashed in reviews, even by IGN. IGN is normally the nicest of the nice. It doesn't take anything to please their critics, except for maybe not having anything, resembling difficulty in the games. But that being said, I highly doubt it's a difficult game. Even the IGN reviewers were brutal on that. Do you really want to see artistic integrity taken away from video games and we get more crap like Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League? He concluded by saying, you won't find our games on a subscription service. I just want to make sure the other ecosystem, buying and selling and owning them, owning, I love that word, ownership, capitalism, baby, doesn't die because it's valuable. Oh, he's talking about value, just a man after my own heart. True to his word, Vinky recently announced that it's incredibly unlikely that Baldur's Gate 3 will ever appear on Xbox Game Pass. And good, people should go out, they should buy that game, and they should own that game. Because again, while I don't particularly care for Baldur's Gate 3, while I am a die-hard anti-Wizards of the Coast and modern Magic the Gathering, Magic the Gathering as well, but modern Dungeons and Dragons, I'm about as anti-modern D&D as they come, that doesn't stop me from wanting other people to have fun with what it is that they're enjoying. But if you're gonna have fun with it, the least you could do is actually purchase the damn thing. So yeah, I'm glad it's never coming to Xbox Game Pass. As the industry moves further into subscription, it's entirely likely will have an effect on games that are made, and eventually what you have available to play. It also brings big concerns about having access to your favorite titles in the long term. Oh, who said that yesterday? It was your boy Leon. That's why this remains an important conversation. It's one that's refreshing to see a CEO criticize. It really is, isn't it? I love when we've got individuals in these, these positions of power, these individuals that run these companies that actually say and then go out of their way to prove that they do care about the consumer. Because for all I can tell about Baldur's Gate 3, it is a very consumer-friendly game. And you know what? It's not on Game Pass or any of these subscription services, which goes to show Homeboy is sticking to his word. You can't really say that about Ubisoft. You can't say that about EA. You can't even say that about Capcom, a company that I used to love, really still do love, but find it harder and harder to give them praise. Who can you say that actually values their customers and values their customers' time? Except for maybe Nintendo, and I get it, Nintendo, people got a lot of gripes with them. They are very, very staunchly protective of their IPs, but I would rather a company be protective over their IP than just throwing slop at the wall and expecting you to pay for it like the good little pay pig you are. At least Nintendo isn't a dominatrix, they're just a ruthless business, really. So yeah, I want to actually praise Larian here. I want to praise the CEO that headed up Baldur's Gate 3, because we need more of this. This is why I always say that you can actually have these big mainstream companies. I guess Larian isn't big and mainstream, they're not really a AAA developer, but after Baldur's Gate 3, it seems like they're clearly headed in that direction. They already had so much good praise with the Divinity games, the Divinity Original Sin and whatnot. I mean, yeah, it makes sense that they're climbing up the ladder. They're becoming the big dogs. They're in the big leagues, and how much they seem to care about their consumers, that's admirable. We can have that and also have a world of indie stuff where you can just praise the work that small development teams do. And again, Larian, you might still consider them indie, but look, a lot of things started out indie that climbed up the big leagues. So I think at this point, after Baldur's Gate 3, we don't have to call Larian indie anymore. Either way, they should be praised, and Ubisoft should be destroyed. But those are just my opinions. Let me know yours in the comments down below, or let me know on X, where you can find me at BoltTheWord. And please do subscribe. I am a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news every day. Not always about video games, but really anything. Anime, movies, music, Magic the Gathering, you name it. Check me out on Instagram at wordsofparadise_Leon. And remember, it's all here in the nerdosphere, and this has been Words of Paradise.